Hi, welcome back to our Beads of Courage series. In the first two videos, you saw me make this bowl and its lid. I'm not going to make anything this time, but I'm only going to decorate. So, been there, done that. Here's the next one. I made it just sort of like the last one, but I've started to include various decorations. In this case, I'm going to cover it with butterflies and color them. So the three stages are transferring the design on, burning it in, and then coloring it. And the whole bowl will also be done the same way. Well, let me tell you how I got here. Got to have a design, and I'm not very good at doing that stuff. So I have a series of various books. This one is drawings of butterflies. This is drawings of various birds. And I can take these and go to my copy machine and make copies of the ones I particularly like. So I did that. Here's some of the birds that came out of the book, but I thought they were much too large. So I reduced them and printed another sheet. I think I'm going to only do butterflies on this particular one here. So here's the butterflies. And I wanted them smaller, so I printed a little bit smaller. And then what I did is I cut them out and laid them on my copy machine and made a fairly long sheet of butterflies, all of which I then can use for design transfer. So this was where I go. And then I made a copy on some transfer paper. And this is what it comes out looking like on the transfer paper. You print them on one side. The other side has a removable matrix and allows you to stick it down to the piece. I then cut them out into small shapes so I can position them wherever I want. And this film peels off the back. And then this can then be stuck to the project. And I'm going to burn right through it. I've done a few on the lid, and I'm going to show you all my setup techniques, and then we'll actually burn on one of these butterflies a little bit. But I'm going to put them on here in random order. There'll be a whole bunch around here. And after they've been burned, I then will pull off the pieces of plastic that are remaining and then go to coloring. So let's talk about how I burn them on. There's a lot of wood burning systems on the market. Mine is here, and I guess this is probably 20 years old, and it's one of the fairly inexpensive ones. In fact, it's not even on the market anymore. And I have a whole number of burning pens, but I wanted one that was thin and rounded so I could come around curves and shape that butterfly. The other thing I need to do that is a piece of maple. This is a scrap of a former lid. It's the same wood. That means when I turn this on, I can set the temperature on it so it's just exactly right. And I have a place to test that. It takes a few seconds to come up to temperature. And I can begin to test whether it's hot enough or too hot. Okay, it's making a very light line. And that's just about where I want it. So I'm not going to do that right at the moment. But that's how that works. For me to copy these things on, I normally lay a towel out or something, so I don't end up scratching up the project like that. I haven't glued the knob in. I found it's easier to work on this surface if I don't have that knob sticking up. Once I have done this, then I'll glue it on and the bead on the back side. So a wood burning set with a small, they call them skew chisels, believe it or not. They're thin, a rounded tip on it to allow you to come around curves, and a piece of wood to practice with. And one last thing you need, trust me, put on my readers, and I put on my mag eyes. With these, I can get down here and I can see these details very, very carefully, and I need bright light. So this is a sit in the office with some nice music going kind of an activity. When I get that done and I have to color it, I have lots of different kinds of pens, and these are the ones I had selected out to use. There's Copic brand, has a very, very fine tip. I have Faber-Castell brand, also fine tip. These I like the best because they are small and I can use them very carefully and stay within the lines. There's always Prismacolor, which have been around and been used a lot. It has a fine tip, not quite as fine. It also has a brush tip on the other end for doing larger work, so you can use either end of this. So we have Prismacolor, Copic. This is the larger Copic, larger ink volume with a small and large tip. So I selected these out because these are the ones I used on the first butterfly, and I think they work best. So these are the ones I needed. So the only other thing I need is a knife, because pulling the plastic backing off of this requires getting in here very carefully and peeling that and then sticking it down to the vessel like I did here. So the process, I stick the transfer down. I then take the wood burnings and burn most of the lines. I don't have to hit every single one. This one has been burned, but the film is still on it. I have to pick the film off now. And after the film is off, then I can come in here and color. I've used yellow for the wings. One of these two dark ones for the body. And the antenna is just the burned line, so there's nothing there to fill. So that's what the process is. I've never worked with this material until this day, and I'm really happy with it. Let me reach over out of camera and bring this back. This is the transfer material called Stick and Burn. I showed you how it works. It comes in sheets. You can go through any copy machine. It does not require you to have a laser-based copier. You can do it with your inkjet just as easily. And it will stick and conform to all sorts of different kinds of shape. And it's a little stronger than some of the films that you might use in the kitchen, so it stays very nicely. We'll post on the end of the video the source where you can buy these. It comes in individual sheets, 8.5 by 11, so they go through your standard copy machine. So, Beads of Courage bowls number 2 is only the process of adding the decorations. So I have this one set up, and I'm going to turn on the wood burner and transfer one more design on here, and then I'm going to take the pieces of plastic remaining off, and we may be able to do just a little bit of the coloring too. So we'll come in with a close-up shot on all this. Got the heat set about right. Well, let's do one. Now, all I'm doing is doing the outside of one wing right at the moment. I'm moving slow so that the wood burns. And I'll put some of the interior lines in simply to give it some detail. You don't want to rush. You want to be able to roll the burner in your hand. I have a slight curve on this wing, so I'm starting here with it in one position. As I come around, I'm just rolling it. And what you could do is take a piece of flat wood, sand it to 220, transfer on some designs, and practice. Now, not all the lines are going to work perfectly. Some may not be right. In which case, when I pull off the transfer media, I can go back and touch up spots that are not right. So let's just continue to do this. And what I'm doing now is still just this one wing, and it's going to take some time. And so what you do is you find a nice quiet time. No kids, no dogs. The rest of the family is off someplace else out of your hearing. And you slowly continue to burn this. So that's half of one wing. Let me finish this one wing and then we'll stop and go on. Something else. Now this curves all the way around, so I've got to be very careful how to start. How to come around. You know, if you're a little bit outside the lines, once you take off your transfer media, nobody will ever know. It is your custom design. So this is just one wing. So you know there I didn't follow the line exactly, and once I pull the transfer media off, it'll be just fine. Why burn it rather than draw it? Because when I put the ink on, the ink will run through the wood fibers out to where the burn line is, where the end of the fiber has been cauterized, and stop right there. You'll have nice, clean lines. So here's the head. Very hard to get that small circle, so I'm going to do a bunch of little lines and pretend it's a circle. And here's the antenna. At least one. And here's the other one. Okay, enough of that. Turn this off. These will get hot after a while. And you also will find that you develop a little bit of tension in your body after a while. And you're going to want to stop and take a break from time to time. So now what I'm going to do next, this is the one I'm just starting to work on right here. This one I have already burned in, but I'm going to take a little knife, and I've got to go back now and pull the transfer media off. So when I pull this paper off, it's going to come off around the outside shape. Look at that. The reason is, when I burned it, I burned right through the transfer paper. So every place where I have a burn line, there's a piece of transfer material that has to be lifted off. And so a knife is a good way to do that. So the pieces are very, very small because the lines are very close together. And once I have all these pulled off, I'll be able to see what I actually did end up burning. Well, there's a place I might want to add another line. Looks like I maybe skipped one. That's fine. I can go back and add those. So I'm just pulling it off of this one wing. Some of these pieces are very small, so better get my mag eyes out here so I can see better. This part is a little tedious. Okay, so there is one wing, uncovered with all of these little pieces. And I find that there's a couple places in there that I could have used a few more lines. Maybe I thought I did it. So I'm going to turn my burner back on and freehand add a couple more marks. Let's test the heat. Okay, good. So this wing right here has a couple of places in it that could probably use a little extra mark. So I'm going to go back and just draw a couple in. And this is all just freehand. But now that wing is more like what I like it to be. Well, we won't finish that, but I will say I'm ready to put some color on that wing, and I chose to put yellow on. Now what's going to happen is this ink will take a little time to dry. It feels dry to the touch, but once it's all been colored, I'm going to use what's called a workable fixative. It's a spray can, and spray the whole piece, and what that's going to do is prevent the ink from running. Now workable fixative is no more than spray lacquer, diluted spray lacquer. But the first coat goes on to lock this down. And then I can go to an oil finish or a lacquer finish, whichever I choose. But I need to secure it first. I'm going to let it dry for a couple of days. And then I'll go back and put my finish on. So let me just color that wing. Here's my yellow. I'm using a Faber-Castell marker. Very fine tip. My mag eyes are in place. And I stay between the burned lines. If you go outside of them, you can't erase this. It doesn't erase. So you got to be careful, be cautious. And if the color isn't dark enough, you can always go back over it with the pen a second time, or with a different color, if that's what you want. So there's that first wing, colored yellow. And I will now continue to cut the rest of the little pieces of plastic off, go to my Faber-Castell marker, put the color in, pick up another darker one to color the body. Now, not all the butterflies need to be yellow. I can do some other colors, and that's fine. So this is up to you. But you don't have to be an artist. You simply have to be able to have a place where you can find the drawings and find some transfer paper and practice on a piece of scrap wood and decorate these things up, because kids will like it if it has all sorts of different animals or colors or drawings. But bright brings a little happiness. This is Beads of Courage bowl number 2, and we'll show you what the final product is when we get done, but that'll be a little while. So get started on another project. We hope you're subscribing to the series and you're getting out into your shop making lidded boxes that you can use for our Beads of Courage program. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. We got another Beads of Courage bowl coming in the next video.